The wind was already turning wild when Evelyn first realized she had wandered too far from the main road. The snow had been light that morning, soft and harmless, like a thin blanket disappearing as soon as it touched the warm ground. But mountain weather changed faster than a heartbeat. Now thick white flakes fell in heavy waves, covering her tracks as soon as she made them, and the cold pressed against her skin like hundreds of tiny needles. She wrapped her arms around herself and kept moving, trying to stay calm. She had walked these woods many times in the past, but never alone, and never in a storm. Her breath came out in pale clouds, quickly stolen by the wind. Branches swayed overhead, creaking under the weight of ice. She had been hoping to reach the nearby town before nightfall, but the storm had other plans. Evelyn told herself she only needed to stay moving, keep walking, keep breathing. She repeated those words in her mind, almost like a quiet song. She tried to ignore the sharp ache in her side. It had started as a little sting earlier in the day, something she thought was just from slipping on a patch of ice. But now, as the cold deepened, the ache spread like a slow fire inside her, making it harder to stand straight. She leaned against a tree for support. Snow settled on her shoulders, on her hat, on the edges of her coat. She couldn't stay here. If she stopped for too long, the cold would win. She pushed herself away from the trunk and kept walking. After what felt like hours, her eyes caught something dark in the distance. A shape, a line, maybe a roof. She blinked, trying to clear the snowflakes sticking to her eyelashes. Yes, there it was. A cabin. Small, old, but real. Her knees almost gave out from relief. She whispered a thank you to whatever had guided her this way, and forced her tired legs to move faster. When she reached the cabin porch, her hands were so numb she could barely lift them to knock. She tried anyway, tapping the wooden door with her fingertips. No answer. She waited. Still no answer. The storm howled louder behind her, so she tried the handle. It was stiff but unlocked. She pushed the door open. Inside, the air was cold, but at least quiet. The cabin looked abandoned, dust on the shelves, a thin layer of frost on the window edges, and a fireplace filled with old ashes. Evelyn stepped in and shut the door behind her, shutting out the storm with a soft thud. She leaned her back against the door and took a long, slow breath. But her relief didn't last long. The ache in her side pulsed harder now, almost like a warning. She placed a hand over the spot, pressing gently. Her fingertips came back damp. She stared at them for a moment, confused. Then, worried. She must have scraped herself worse than she thought when she fell earlier in the day. Maybe she hit something sharp without realizing it. The cold had numbed her enough to hide the pain until now. She felt dizzy. She moved to the wooden table near the wall and held onto the edge, trying to steady herself. She needed to rest. Just for a moment. She chose a corner near the fire pit and sat down slowly, lowering herself onto the wooden floor. The cold from the boards seeped through her clothes, but she no longer had energy to stand. Her eyes grew heavy. She told herself she would stay awake, but exhaustion wrapped around her like a heavy blanket. Her head dipped forward. She didn't know how long she dozed. But a sudden sound woke her, a crunching of footsteps outside the cabin. Not the sound of an animal. Too heavy. Too steady. She opened her eyes, still groggy, and listened harder. Yes. Definite footsteps. Someone was out there, walking toward the door. Her breath caught. She didn't know whether to feel scared or relieved. Maybe it was someone who could help her. Or maybe a stranger with unknown intentions. She had no choice but to hope for the best. She tried to push herself up, but her body refused. The ache in her side had grown worse, and her limbs felt too weak. The door handle turned. For a moment everything went silent, except for the wind outside. Then the door opened, and a tall figure stepped into the dim cabin light. Snow fell from his coat as he shut the door behind him. He was a cowboy, at least that was Evelyn's first thought. His hat, his boots, the heavy coat, the leather gloves, all worn from travel and weather. He carried himself with calm confidence, like someone used to long days on horseback and hard work. He brushed snow off his shoulders and then noticed her. His brows lifted slightly, surprise flashing across his face. "Ma'am?" he said softly. His voice was calm, steady, and warm enough to break through the cold of the room. He took a step closer, but slowly, giving her space. Evelyn tried to speak, but her voice came out weak. He nodded once, as if he understood everything from just those few words. "Storm came in fast," he replied. "Bad time to be out alone." He knelt beside her, studying her face with gentle concern. "You're hurt." She didn't answer, but she didn't need to. The cowboy saw the strain in her expression, the way she held her side, the exhaustion in her eyes. "I'm Cole," he said, still speaking softly. "Cole Thatcher. I'm not here to cause trouble. Let me help." Evelyn felt a wave of relief hearing his tone. There was honesty in it, a kind of steady strength she hadn't realized she needed until this moment. She nodded faintly. I slipped earlier. I thought it was nothing." Cole removed one glove and placed his hand carefully near her side, not touching the wound, just feeling the warmth through the fabric. His eyes softened with concern. "You've been walking with this injury for a while," he said. "That's why you're so weak." Evelyn looked down, embarrassed. "I didn't want to stop. I thought if I kept walking, I could reach help." "You reached it now," he replied kindly. "This cabin's old, but it'll keep us safe from the storm. Let me get a fire going." He stood and walked to the fireplace, brushing old ash aside and stacking fresh wood he carried in his pack. His movements were quick but careful, as if he had done this many times before. Soon he had a spark going, and warmth began to spread slowly through the room. Evelyn felt the heat reach her, softening the edge of her pain just a little. Cole returned to her side and lowered himself to the floor. "Tell me if anything feels worse," he said. "I want to make sure you stay awake." She nodded again. Her eyes followed him as he removed supplies from his bag. Clean cloth, a small canteen of water, and a gentle expression that made her feel safer than she had all day. "You were lucky to find this place," he said. "Storms in these mountains don't forgive easily." "I know," she whispered. "I was starting to think I wouldn't make it." "You did," he replied. "And you're not alone anymore." The fire crackled softly, filling the cabin with a warm glow. Snow continued to fall heavily outside. But for the first time that day, Evelyn felt hope. Cole's presence was quiet, steady, and comforting. He checked on her often, making sure she stayed awake, making sure she was breathing steady, making sure she knew she was safe. She wasn't sure what tomorrow would bring, but she knew one thing clearly. Tonight, she had been found, and that might have saved her life. As the fire slowly warmed the small cabin, Evelyn felt her body relax for the first time since the storm began. The light from the flames danced gently across the walls, making the old wooden boards glow with soft amber color. The warmth spread toward her little by little, easing the tightness in her muscles. Even though she still felt weak, she no longer felt like she was fading away into the cold. Cole sat a short distance from her, close enough to help if she needed him, but far enough to give her space. He had taken off his wet coat and placed it near the fire to dry, revealing a simple shirt beneath. His sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, and his hands moved with calm confidence as he checked the supplies he carried in his bag. Evelyn watched him quietly, feeling safe for the first time since she had lost her way. She didn't know much about him, but something in his gentle voice and steady manner made her trust him. It wasn't something she could explain logically, it was simply a feeling. The ache in her side pulsed lightly. She placed a hand over the area, hoping the warmth from the fire would help more as time passed. Cole noticed the small movement. "You're still hurting?" he asked softly. "A little," she admitted. But it's better than before. He nodded. Sometimes the cold hides how bad something is. When you warm up, you start to feel everything again. He paused, thinking, "Do you mind if I take a closer look at your side? I won't touch anything that hurts. I just want to make sure it isn't something that needs more help." Evelyn hesitated for a moment, but the kindness in his expression settled her worry. "Okay," she said. Cole moved closer carefully. He didn't rush. He waited until she nodded again, before gently examining the area through her coat. His touch was light, almost like a feather, and he stayed focused. "It looks like you scraped yourself when you fell," he said after a moment. "But I don't think anything is too serious. You just need to rest. A deep scrape can feel worse than it is when someone keeps walking on it." Evelyn felt relief wash over her. She had been scared it was something worse. "I'm glad it's not anything serious." A bit of rest and warmth will help a lot," he said as he leaned back again. "And we should clean the area with warm water soon, just to be safe. But we don't need to rush it. You've been through enough today." The fire crackled softly, filling the silence with a comfortable sound. Evelyn watched the flames dance. She felt small shivers run across her skin as the last traces of cold left her body. Cole poured a little water from his canteen into a metal cup and moved it near the fire to warm. Then he sat back down and rested his elbows on his knees. "You were out there a long time," he said quietly. "How did you get caught in the storm?" "So." Evelyn took a slow breath, trying to gather her thoughts. "I was trying to walk to town," she said. "I planned to reach it before dark, but the sky changed so fast. I didn't even realize I was heading the wrong way until the snow got too thick to see anything." He nodded, as if he'd heard many people tell similar stories. "These mountains can confuse anyone," he said. "Even people who live here. The weather changes quickly. You're lucky you found this cabin." She smiled faintly. "I didn't think I would find anything. When I saw the shape of the roof through the snow, I thought I was imagining it." "Well, it was real," Cole said with a small smile of his own. "And you did the right thing, coming inside. If you had stayed out there much longer..." He stopped, not wanting to worry her. "You saved me," she said softly. "I was just passing by," he replied. "But I'm glad I reached here when I did." The warmth in the room continued to grow. The ice on her hat melted, dripping little beads of water onto the floor. Evelyn removed it and set it beside her. She sighed, letting her shoulders drop. Cole leaned against the table leg and let the silence settle for a moment before speaking again. "Do you live nearby?" "Not very far," she answered. "My home is on the other side of the woods. I usually know the path well. But today, everything looked different." "Snow does that," he said. "It hides the familiar." Evelyn studied his face. He looked like someone who spent many days and nights outdoors. Someone who knew nature well. His features were calm, thoughtful. He didn't seem like a man who rushed through life. He seemed like someone who understood patience. "What about you?" she asked. "Are you from around here?" Cole shook his head. "I travel a lot. Work takes me from place to place. But I know these mountains well enough. I grew up a few days' ride from here." "Do you travel alone?" she asked. He nodded. "Most of the time. But it doesn't bother me. The quiet is good company." Evelyn admired that. She liked quiet too. But not the kind she had felt out in the storm, the quiet that felt empty and frightening. The quiet she felt now, inside the cabin with Cole, was different. It was gentle, comforting, and full of calm. She shifted slightly, trying to find a more comfortable position. Cole noticed and moved a little closer. "Here," he said, placing a folded blanket behind her back. "This will help you sit better." "Thank you," she said, grateful for the support. The room felt brighter now, as if the fire had pushed away every shadow. The storm outside continued to roar. But in the cabin, it sounded distant. The wooden walls held strong, letting the wind pass around them without letting it in. Cole checked the cup of warm water. He touched the side of it, then nodded. "This is warm enough," he said. "I'll clean the scrape now. It might sting just a little, but it won't hurt much." Evelyn nodded. She trusted him. He used a clean cloth, soaking it lightly in the warm water, and gently cleaned the area where she had scraped her skin earlier in the day. He worked slowly, making sure not to cause her discomfort. His hands were careful, steady, and respectful. When he was done, he wrapped a soft cloth around her side. "This will keep the area clean," he said. "It's not too tight, so you should be comfortable." Evelyn felt a warm wave of comfort. She hadn't realized how drained she was until now. "You're very kind," she whispered. "I'm just doing what anyone should do," Cole said. "You needed help." She smiled faintly. "Still, I'm glad it was you who found me." Cole didn't reply at first. He simply adjusted the logs in the fire and watched the flames rise higher. Then, he spoke gently. "I'm glad I found you too." The storm outside grew louder for a moment, shaking the edges of the cabin. The wind howled like a distant voice calling through the night. But inside, the fire held its warmth, and the little room felt like a safe bubble, carved out of the freezing world. Evelyn pulled the blanket tighter around herself. She felt tired, comfortably tired, not the kind of tired that came from fear or cold. Her eyes grew heavy again. But this time, she wasn't afraid to rest. "Cole?" she whispered. "Yes? Will you stay awake, just in case the storm gets worse?" He nodded. "I'll stay right here," he said. "You rest. I won't let anything happen." Hearing that made her feel safer than she had in a long time. She let her eyes drift closed, knowing she wasn't alone anymore. The warmth of the fire, the soft crackle of burning wood, and Cole's steady presence lulled her into a gentle, peaceful sleep. And while she rested, Cole kept watch, keeping the fire alive, listening to the storm, and making sure the cabin remained a safe place until morning arrived. The fire had burned gently through most of the night, filling the small cabin with steady warmth. Evelyn slept with calm breaths, her head resting lightly against the wooden wall. Cole sat nearby, keeping watch just as he promised. Every now and then he added a small piece of wood to the fire so the warmth would not fade. He didn't mind the long night. He was used to staying awake during difficult weather. And tonight, he had a reason, a very important one, to stay alert. When the first hint of dawn touched the sky, the storm softened. The wind still whispered outside, but it no longer pushed at the walls like it had the night before. Cole stood up quietly and stretched his tired muscles. Then he walked to the window and brushed away the frost with the back of his glove. The outside world was still covered in thick snow, but it looked calm now, not angry. He turned back just as Evelyn shifted slightly in her sleep. A moment later, her eyes fluttered open. She blinked a few times, confused at first, as if she wasn't sure where she was. Then she remembered the storm, the cabin, the exhaustion, and the kind stranger who had helped her. Cole smiled softly. "Morning," he said in his gentle voice. She returned the smile, though hers was small and sleepy. "Good morning. How are you feeling?" he asked. Evelyn took a slow breath and tested the way her body felt. The ache in her side had lessened. Her limbs felt warm, not frozen. Her mind felt clearer. "Better," she said honestly. "Much better." "That's good. Rest did you well," Cole replied. She looked around the cabin. The fire's warmth touched everything, filling the room with a golden glow. Her coat and hat had dried near the fireplace. The blanket still rested around her shoulders. For the first time in a long while, she felt safe. "Did you stay awake all night?" she asked softly, already knowing the answer. Cole shrugged a little. I've handled longer nights, he said. Besides, someone had to keep the fire going. You didn't have to do all that for me, she said. But thank you. I'm glad you're feeling better, he replied. Evelyn tried to sit up straighter, and Cole reached out quickly but gently to support her without touching anything that might hurt. Take it slow, he warned. No need to rush. She nodded. I just want to move around a little. Her voice was polite, almost apologetic. You can, Cole said, but don't push yourself. Evelyn tried standing, and although her legs felt a little shaky at first, she managed it. Cole stayed close, ready to steady her if she stumbled. But she found her balance after a moment. The warmth of the cabin helped her feel stronger. She walked a few small steps toward the window. The storm stopped, she said, marveling at the quiet world outside. For now, Cole answered. These mountains like surprises. But it looks calm enough to think about traveling later. Evelyn wasn't sure she was ready to face the snow just yet. Do you think we should leave soon? Cole thought for a moment. It depends on how you're feeling, he said honestly. We don't need to rush. This cabin is safe, and the storm might return. But if you're feeling strong, and the weather stays steady, we can start heading toward town. Evelyn appreciated that he wasn't trying to rush her. It made her trust him even more. She turned toward him. Cole, I want to thank you again. You helped me more than you know. Drum. He shook his head lightly. Anyone would have done the same. Not everyone, she corrected softly. Cole's eyes softened. There was something quiet and thoughtful in the way he looked at her. Something that made her heart settle warmly in her chest. He walked to his bag and took out a small packet of food. You should eat something before we decide anything, he said. Energy will help you feel steady. Evelyn agreed. Sitting back down, she warmed her hands near the fire, while Cole prepared a simple breakfast, just some dry bread, a little honey, and warm water. Nothing fancy. But after a night in the storm, it tasted wonderful. While they ate, they talked. It wasn't deep conversation, not yet. It was light, gentle, talk about everyday things. Have you traveled far recently? Evelyn asked. A few days, Cole answered. Mostly moving through small towns, helping whoever needs help along the way. Sometimes I fix fences. Sometimes I help gather lost animals. Just simple work. That sounds peaceful. It can be, he said with a small smile. But every path has surprises. Evelyn smiled too. Like finding a lost stranger in a cabin? He chuckled quietly. Exactly like that. She sipped the warm water, feeling it spread comfort inside her. Not anywhere in particular, he admitted. When you travel alone, the road becomes the destination. I was just following the trail. That sounds lonely, she said softly. Cole shrugged. Sometimes it is. But sometimes the quiet teaches you things. Evelyn looked into the fire. I like quiet too, she said. He nodded. There's a difference. As the morning light grew brighter, the warmth in the cabin felt steady and strong. Evelyn stood again, more confidently this time. She walked around the room, stretching gently. Cole watched her quietly, making sure she wasn't overdoing it. Your strength is coming back, he said. I feel like it is, she replied. Then she paused, placing a hand lightly on her side. Still a bit tender, but nothing like yesterday. That's good, Cole said. You're healing. She turned to him. Do you think we can make it to town later? If the weather stays steady. Yes, he replied. But we'll go at your pace. And we don't have to hurry. The cabin is safe. Evelyn appreciated the calmness in his voice. He didn't treat her like a burden. He didn't rush her or push decisions on her. He simply offered support, steady as the fire behind him. She walked to the table and touched the edge of it with gentle fingers. "Cole," she said quietly, "thank you for everything yesterday. I was scared. Really scared. I didn't say it then, but I thought I wouldn't make it." Cole stood and walked a little closer, but not too close. "Fear is natural," he said. "Anyone in your place would feel the same. But you didn't give up. You kept walking, even when everything felt impossible. That's strength." Evelyn lowered her gaze shyly. "I don't feel very strong." "You are," he said simply. "You made it through a storm most people wouldn't want to face alone." The words warmed her more than the fire. She felt her chest loosen and her worry fade. A soft wind brushed against the windows outside, reminding them both of the world waiting beyond the cabin walls. But inside, everything felt calm, steady, and safe. Evelyn stepped closer to the fire and extended her hands toward the heat. Cole joined her on the other side of the small fireplace, leaning slightly against the stones. "I'm glad you didn't walk past this place," Evelyn said quietly. Cole nodded. "I'm glad you found it," he replied. "Cabins like this are quiet guardians in the mountains. They save people more often than they're given credit for." She smiled. "And you saved me too." He didn't argue this time. He simply gave a gentle smile in return. The morning moved slowly. The two of them spent time organizing things, preparing for the day, and talking in quiet tones. Every step Evelyn took felt easier. Every breath felt smoother. And Cole remained close, not hovering, not overwhelming, just present in a way that made her feel secure. There was something comforting about his presence, something that made the cabin feel warmer than the fire alone could manage. Evelyn felt it every time he glanced her way to make sure she was okay, every time he offered gentle words, every time he moved quietly around the room so he didn't disturb her rest. When she sat down again, feeling only a small ache in her side, she looked toward him and said softly, "I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't come." Cole met her eyes, his expression warm and calm. "You don't have to think about that now," he said. "You're safe, and I'll help you get home." Something about those words made her feel deeply at peace. The storm was fading. Her strength was returning. And beside her, the cowboy who found her remained steady as sunrise. The sun had climbed a little higher, giving the snow-covered world outside a soft glow. The storm clouds from the night before drifted away slowly, leaving behind a pale, peaceful sky. Inside the cabin, the fire crackled gently, warming the wooden walls and filling the space with a pleasant, comforting scent of burning pine. Evelyn felt stronger with each passing hour. Her steps were steadier, her breath easier, and the ache in her side had softened into a dull reminder rather than a sharp pain. She stretched her arms slowly, testing her muscles. Cole watched her with a quiet smile, pleased to see her recovering. "You look more like yourself," he said warmly. Evelyn returned the smile. "I feel more like myself." She sat near the fire to warm her hands, and Cole took a seat across from her. His hat rested on the table, and his coat, now dry, hung neatly beside the door. He had spent the morning making sure everything inside the cabin was in order. He moved with a calm rhythm, like someone who had lived this lifestyle for a long time and understood how to take care of both himself and others. Evelyn watched him for a moment, admiring the steady way he worked. "Do you stay in places like this often?" she asked. "More often than I stay in towns," he replied. "Cabins like this are good shelter when weather gets unpredictable. Simple, but dependable." "It feels like a safe place," she said softly. Cole nodded. "It is. That's why travelers use them. They belong to everyone, and no one, at the same time." Evelyn thought about that. She liked the idea of a place in the mountains that existed just to help whoever needed it. A quiet refuge. A hidden kindness in the wilderness. Cole rose from his seat and walked to the window. "The weather is holding," he said. "Sky looks clear for now." Evelyn stood beside him. The world outside sparkled with untouched snow, smooth and bright. It looked peaceful, but she knew how easily that peace could change. She also knew she wasn't quite ready to go out into it yet. "Do you think we should leave soon?" she asked. "We have time," Cole said. "We don't need to rush. Your body needs a little more rest. And the path will be easier once the sun softens the top layer of snow." She appreciated the patience in his voice. He didn't make her feel like she was slowing him down. He didn't push her toward a decision. He simply offered support. And that meant more to her than she could say. She turned away from the window and walked to the table. Her steps were steady, though a little slow. Cole followed her with his eyes, making sure she wasn't struggling. Evelyn noticed the care in his gaze and felt a quiet warmth in her chest. "Would you like some warm water?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "That would be nice." Cole warmed the water in a small metal cup and handed it to her carefully. She wrapped her hands around the cup, enjoying the warmth against her fingers. They sat together again near the fire, sipping the warm water in comfortable silence. It wasn't an awkward silence, it felt natural and peaceful, like the calm after a long, difficult day. "Cole," Evelyn said after a moment, "can I tell you something?" He looked at her with polite curiosity. "Of course. When I woke up yesterday morning, I didn't expect any of this. I thought it would be a normal day, a simple walk, a simple journey. But then the storm came, and everything changed so suddenly. I felt lost. Not just in the snow. Inside myself, too." Cole listened with quiet attention, his expression soft. She continued, "The storm scared me. I don't usually get scared easily, but I didn't know if anyone would find me, or if I could find help." She paused to steady her voice. "But then you came, and when you walked into the cabin, I felt like I could breathe again." Cole lowered his gaze for a moment, thinking. Then he looked up and said gently, "Everyone gets lost sometimes. There's no shame in it. The important thing is that you kept going. You didn't give up, even when everything felt impossible." Evelyn smiled faintly. "I don't know if I kept going because of strength or because I didn't know what else to do." "Sometimes they're the same thing," Cole said. She held his eyes for a moment, appreciating the kindness in them. He had a way of speaking truth without making her feel small or foolish. After a while, Cole stood and walked to the door. He cracked it open just enough to let in a thin stream of fresh air. A cool breeze flowed into the cabin, carrying with it the scent of snow and pine. Evelyn closed her eyes and breathed it in deeply. "It smells clean," she said. "It does," Cole replied. "Snow clears the air, makes everything feel new." Evelyn stepped closer to the doorway, but not outside. The ground beyond the cabin glistened under the sunlight. The world looked untouched, like a painting. Cole leaned against the doorframe, watching her expression. "When you feel ready, we'll start our walk to town. It's not a long journey, but the snow will slow us down a little." "I think I might be ready soon," she said. "I just want to take one more moment to rest." Cole nodded. "Take all the time you need." She went back to her place near the fire, and Cole began packing his supplies. He moved neatly and efficiently, preparing things so they would be easy to carry. Evelyn watched him for a long moment. "You're very organized," she said. He smiled. "Traveling teaches you that. A misplaced item can slow you down or cause trouble later. So I keep things simple." "Simple seems peaceful," she said. "That's the idea." Evelyn laughed softly. She liked the sound of her own laughter again. It felt like a sign that she was truly recovering. As Cole finished packing, he set aside a blanket. "This one is for you," he said, "in case you get cold on the walk." Evelyn touched the fabric. It was soft and warm. "Thank you." "You're welcome." A gentle silence fell between them again. Evelyn looked at the fire, then at Cole, and then around the small cabin. She realized she would miss this place, the quiet safety of it, the warmth of the flames, the feeling of not being alone. Cole noticed her expression. "You look deep in thought," he said. "I was just thinking how grateful I am," Evelyn said. "I didn't expect to find comfort in the middle of a snowstorm." Cole stepped closer with a thoughtful look. "Comfort can show up in unexpected places." She nodded. "Like people, too." Their eyes met, and for a moment the room felt even warmer. Then a soft sound drifted from outside, a distant creak of snow shifting under the mild morning warmth. Cole glanced toward the door, always alert, always aware of the world around him. But the sound was small and harmless, just nature adjusting itself. He turned back to Evelyn. "The day is starting," he said gently. "The sun's rising. Let's give it a little more time. Then we'll go." Evelyn agreed. "Yes." They spent the next portion of the morning preparing quietly together. Evelyn folded the blanket she had used. Cole checked the fireplace to make sure everything was safe before they left. He organized their path in his mind, making sure he would guide Evelyn through the easiest route. Every moment felt steady and patient. Every movement felt calm. While they worked, Evelyn kept stealing small glances at Cole, not out of fear, but out of gratitude and curiosity. She wondered what kind of life he had lived, what stories he carried with him, what led him to travel alone. She wanted to ask more, but she didn't want to push too soon. Cole noticed her glances, but he didn't comment. Instead, he offered a quiet smile whenever she looked his way. When everything was finally ready, Evelyn wrapped the warm blanket around her shoulders. She took a deep breath, feeling strong enough now. "I think I'm ready," she said softly. Cole nodded with a calm smile. "All right. Stay close to me. The snow might be deep in some places." Evelyn stepped beside him, trusting his guidance completely. He opened the door fully, letting the bright morning light spill into the cabin. She looked at the snowy path ahead, then back at the cabin behind her. She felt a gentle pull in her heart. Part of her wished she could stay in the warm, quiet, a little longer. But she knew she had to continue her journey. Cole stepped outside first, clearing a small path for her with his boots. Evelyn followed carefully. As they started their slow walk toward town, one thing felt certain. She wasn't walking alone anymore. The air outside the cabin felt crisp and cool, but not harsh like the night before. Evelyn stepped carefully, feeling the snow soften under her boots as the sun melted the top layer. Cole walked a little ahead, packing down the snow with his steps so she could follow more easily. His movements were steady and slow enough for her to keep pace without feeling rushed. The trees around them sparkled with morning light. Every branch wore a layer of snow that looked like white silk. The world felt peaceful, almost magical, as if the storm from the night before had never existed. Evelyn breathed in the cold, fresh air, feeling it fill her lungs and clear her mind. "Is the town far?" she asked as she walked behind him. "Not too far," Cole replied, glancing back to check on her. "Maybe an hour or two at this speed, but we'll take our time." "I appreciate that," she said softly. Cole nodded. "You're still recovering. No need to hurry." They continued walking in silence for a while, but it was a quiet, comfortable silence. Evelyn watched the way Cole moved. He stepped with purpose, guiding her through the gentler parts of the snow-covered path. Now and then he pointed at a branch or a rock hidden under the snow so she wouldn't stumble. "Do you always look out for people this way?" she asked with a small smile. Cole chuckled gently. "Not always." "You've done more than your best," Evelyn replied. "I don't know if I would have made it through the night without you." "You were stronger than you think," he said. "You found the cabin. That saved you." "But I didn't know how to take care of myself once I was inside," she admitted. "That's why I was there," he said simply. "Sometimes a journey brings people together at the right time." Evelyn liked the way he phrased that. It made her feel as though the storm had not been a punishment, but something that brought her to safety and to someone who cared. As they walked, the sun rose higher, coloring the snow with gentle shades of gold. Birds began to emerge from their hiding places, hopping from branch to branch, shaking loose little puffs of snow. Evelyn smiled at them. "It feels like the world is waking up again," she said. "It does," Cole agreed. "Morning after a storm always feels like a fresh beginning." Evelyn thought about that for a moment. A fresh beginning. That was exactly what she felt inside. A quiet strength returning to her. A sense of calm she hadn't felt in a long time. After a while, the trees opened into a small clearing. They stopped to rest for a moment. Cole brushed snow off a fallen log and gestured for Evelyn to sit. "Take a moment," he said. She sat down gratefully, wrapping the blanket tighter around her shoulders. The sunlight warmed her face. Cole sat on the snow beside the log. Not too close, but near enough for conversation. "Cole," she began softly, "may I ask something?" "Of course," he replied. "Why do you travel alone?" Cole looked at the snow for a moment, thinking. "It started because of the work I did," he said. "I moved from place to place, helping where I could. Then it became a habit. I guess I got used to the quiet." Evelyn tilted her head. "But do you enjoy the quiet?" "Yes," he said. "But sometimes, I wonder what it would be like, not to travel alone." Evelyn looked down at her hands. "Maybe one day, you won't have to." Cole smiled gently at her words. "Maybe." They sat quietly for a moment before Evelyn spoke again. "Last night when I fell asleep in the cabin, I felt safe. I haven't felt that way in a long time." Cole looked at her with soft eyes. "I'm glad you felt safe." "It wasn't just the fire or the cabin," she continued. "It was you. You were steady and calm and kind." Cole's eyes softened even more. "Thank you," he said quietly. "That means a lot." She wasn't sure why she felt emotional, but her voice trembled just slightly. "I'm grateful for you, Cole. Truly." He looked away first, almost shyly. "You're welcome," he said. "I'm glad I could be there." After a few more minutes, Cole stood and offered his hand. Evelyn placed her hand in his. His grip was warm and gentle as he helped her stand. "Yes, I'm ready." They continued their journey. The path became easier as they moved downhill. The snow was thinner here, because the sunlight reached more of the ground. Evelyn felt herself growing more confident with each step. Along the way, Cole pointed out small signs of the nearby town footprints from early travelers. A split piece of wood from someone gathering fire supplies, and the faint, distant sound of a dog barking. "We're getting close," he told her. "That's good," she said, though she felt a strange mix of comfort and sadness. Comfort because she would soon be among familiar surroundings, and sadness because the quiet walk with Cole would end. As they reached the outskirts of the small town, Evelyn could see a few rooftops peeking above the snowy hills. The sight made her feel relieved and emotional all at once. "That's it," Cole said. "Home." She took a deep breath. "Yes, home." They walked a little farther until they reached the first path leading into the town. Evelyn stopped there, turning to face Cole fully. "I guess this is where we say goodbye," she said softly. Cole adjusted the strap of his bag. "Unless you want me to walk you all the way to your door," he offered gently. Evelyn smiled warmly. "No, I'm all right from here. You've already done so much." Cole nodded, though something quiet and thoughtful passed through his expression. He seemed hesitant to leave, but respectful of her space. "I'm glad I found you," he said. "I'm glad you did too," she replied. "I don't know how I can ever repay you." "You don't need to repay me," he said. "Knowing you're safe is enough." Evelyn looked down at the snow, then back up at him. "Will you be staying in town long?" Cole shook his head. "Probably not. I don't usually stay in one place very long." She felt a small tug in her heart, but tried to hide it. "I understand. But," Cole added gently, "if you ever want to see me again, You'll know where to find me. I pass through these mountains often. Evelyn felt warmth spread through her chest. Then I hope our paths cross again. Cole smiled small, sincere, and full of quiet promise. She stepped closer, not knowing exactly why, but feeling drawn by gratitude and a soft connection she didn't want to lose. Cole, she said softly, take care of yourself. And thank you for everything. I'll remember this, he said gently. Me too, she whispered. They stood facing each other for a long, silent moment. A calm moment. A meaningful one. The snowy world around them felt still, as if holding its breath. Then Cole stepped back, giving her space. He lifted his hat slightly, in a respectful gesture, then turned toward the trail that led back into the mountains. Evelyn watched him walk a few steps before he turned back one last time. Their eyes met, sharing a silent goodbye filled with gratitude and a promise that wasn't spoken aloud. Then he continued down the snowy path, steady and calm, disappearing slowly into the trees. Evelyn stood there for a while, letting the moment settle gently in her heart. She felt stronger than she had in a long time, physically, emotionally, and quietly inside herself. She wrapped her blanket tighter around her shoulders and began walking toward her home, carrying with her the warmth of the cabin, the memory of the storm, and the kindness of the cowboy who had changed everything. And though she didn't know when or how, she felt certain that someday their paths would cross again.